Alright, this is a quick commentary about Chris Rock bashing on the Asians in the Oscars. Somebody sent me the email, and literally it's like 5 in the morning right now, and I just wanted to make a video response about it, just to get it out of my mind right away, because that's how I operate. So basically, I'll share the link below here. You can check it out. It's not too long. Basically, he just going with the Asian stereotype. He had like these three Asian kids dress up as like an accountant, and then he said these are like the top executive accountants, and he brought them out on stage, and people were laughing and stuff like that, and then he made fun of, basically made fun of Stacey Dash after that. And then they said that Jeremy Lin, who's an NBA basketball player who's Chinese American, tweeted something saying, like, seriously, when is it not gonna be cool just to bash on Asians with these stereotypes? And my thoughts on it is just interesting because I just recently made a video. I didn't post it yet, but I'm gonna post it. Right when I post this video, you'll see it. I just recently made a video before I saw this title, like basically blacks and Chinese are like the same to me. And to me they are. It's like they're representing the struggle, But in this situation, Chris Rock is not truly a black person. When a person that's black, he has a decision to make, especially when he's rich, to either be a part of the struggle or to be a part of the bullying team, right? The people that are in power. And in this situation, you could tell that Chris Rock chose the bullying part, or the part, of being in power. Actually, I like Chris Rock. Actually, I like his comedy. As far as his stand-up comedy is concerned, I like it, But him bashing on the Asians, I'm not mad at him, because I know it's so hard to be a comedian, and you gotta look at his situation. His crowd is all white people, so he can't make fun of white people, because if he does, they're gonna be angry at him. And he can't make fun of black people because he doesn't want white people laughing at black people. So being a comedian, you have to pick on somebody. You gotta bully somebody. And there's no Asian people in the crowd. Asian is not, according to his eyes, affiliated with his race. So might as well bash on the Asians. Because the Hispanic community is a large community in America. They're talking about having more Spanish speakers in America than there are English speakers. They're trying to, convert America into Espanol. You know what I'm saying? The Hispanic population is a strong community, so I don't think it would have been a good idea for him to attack the Hispanics. So what other race is there you think about? There's white, black, Hispanic, and Asian. So just bash on the Asians. And the thing is, you got to understand that the Asians are the new blacks. Back in the day, they would enslave the blacks. Now they enslave the Chinese people. You know, Japan enslaves the Chinese people. America enslaves Chinese people. Like, everybody's, and then now, there's certain black people that are picking on Chinese people. Like, everybody's enslaving the Chinese people. Even Chinese Americans are enslaving the Chinese people, because if you're a Chinese American living in America, you operate a business, you don't want to hire, Americans for work, because you'll go out of business, because you're paying them minimum wage, which is like $10 an hour. But if you enslave Chinese people, you pay them like 10 cents an hour, then now you become a multimillionaire. So then you got Chinese Americans that enslave Chinese people. You got blacks that enslave Chinese people, whites that enslave Chinese people. Like, everybody's enslaving Chinese people. And the difference with the Chinese people is they allow themselves to be enslaved. They don't rebel like the blacks rebelled. You got these Europeans that bring over Africans to enslave them, and then the Africans rebel. But the difference now is the Chinese are not rebelling; they're allowing themselves to be enslaved. And everybody's putting their into the pot to profit off of that. So nobody is really innocent from this. Everybody that lives in America is in some way or another enslaving Chinese people. When you go to that store, when you go to Walmart, and you're buying those cheap products, all those cheap products are made in China, and you're benefiting off of their enslavement. So Chinese people are being enslaved for labor. They're being used to be laughed at. They're being used as servants. They're just being used for what they could be used for. And there will be Americans that go to China to find prostitutes to have sex with. So, you got Chinese prostitutes too, just like Thailand's well known to be like the country for prostitution, like Thai prostitution. And you got these massage parlors. If you look at all over the US, you got these massage parlors that are operated by like Chinese people, Thai people being used as servants for, sex and massages. I mean, you see it, the Chinese people being abused and used everywhere. And no living Chinese person has respect. The only one Chinese person that has respect that's dead is Bruce Lee. Yeah, like Jet Li and Jackie Chan and Donnie Yen are respected overseas by their own people, but as far as like respect in America, nobody gives a damn about them. You know what I'm saying? Just a few small percentage of the population, but they're not truly famous in America, not in my eyes. You know, um, so this is what I see. You know what I mean? Like somebody has to be enslaved. That's what capitalism is all about. Communism gives out the impression that nobody is enslaved, but communism, the way that they try to work it out to be, ends up becoming worse than capitalism. So they don't know how to apply the concepts of communism and to actually make it work. So we live in a capitalistic society, and living in a capitalistic society, some group of people is gonna have to be enslaved. And it just happens to be the Chinese people. So you got ranks of races in America. You got like something like the white people on top, and who's right below them? Blacks. And who's below the blacks? Hispanics. Who's below the Hispanics? The Asians. As far as like power is concerned, as far as like influence over like politics, I mean, it's clear cut. It's clear. White, black, Hispanic, Chinese, or Asian. In my eyes, it's very clear cut, and there's always going to be the ladder of like people on top and then people below, and so it doesn't surprise me. And another thing it gets me to think about is Chris Rock. You got Malcolm X, who mentioned this before. He's talking about the house Negroes and the field Negroes. The field Negroes are somebody like Malcolm X, somebody like Tupac, who are famous or were famous and who had influence, but they chose to stay within their people's group to fight the corruption. But then you got house Negroes who look like they're black, but then in their heart they are not truly black. They have converted to white. So meaning these are the people that might be considered whitewashed, the people that go against their own people of their skin color. And then they actually oppress their own people. So people like this, house Negroes, are maybe like black police officers that are basically racist towards their own people, or somebody like comparing somebody like maybe Jay-Z or Kanye West, the difference between them and like Tupac, like they become like puppets for the industry. Like they don't rebel against the industry, they're for the industry, so they're gonna promote these systematic problems that we have in society, whereas Tupac's not gonna promote it, he's gonna rebel against it. So Tupac's a field Negro, Jay-Z and like Kanye West are like house Negroes, and of course Chris Rock is a house Negro. I mean, just like, I mean, it's so apparent. I mean, basically for the Oscars, for example, you know, you got an all-white Oscar festival that's going on, and then he's the one who's being the puppet, being used for entertainment, whereas Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith are like, and Spike Lee, they're like, hey, you should protest against this. But if he did protest, then he would have been a field Negro. But he didn't protest. He's like, I'm just gonna be a part of it. So then he's a house Negro. So even Kevin Hart was in the audience. So that's more like a house Negro. So pretty much all the blacks that showed up to the Oscars are house Negroes. The blacks that said, you know what, like Spike Lee and Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith and whatnot, when they protest against the Oscars, they're field Negroes. You understand? And then there's gonna be white people that are actually on the team of the minorities, like Michael Moore. He was basically protesting against the Oscars himself, and he's white. So he's basically like a white person that has turned into a field Negro. So I'm a field Negro, but if I was like somebody, like say, compared me to like Michael Chang or something like that, somebody who's all about the commercialization and basically promoting all these systematic problems within society, promoting corruption, promoting people to take steroids or all these stupid, um, powdered drinks and all these supplements, and just basically becoming a commercial, just basically being a complete puppet. You know, that's what a house Negro is. A minority that's being used as a puppet. That's what a house Negro is. And clearly Chris Rock is a house Negro. All right. Field Negroes are individuals, are minorities that are not puppets. They basically keep it real. And Bruce Lee was a field Negro. And you see all of a sudden he dies mysteriously, which is not surprising. Brandon Lee, his son, was a field Negro, and he dies mysteriously. Well, he dies, he dies young. Tupac, field Negro, he dies. Malcolm X, field Negro, he dies. Now, Martin Luther King Jr., he's kind of like, he's not completely a field Negro like Malcolm X, but then he's not completely a house Negro like a complete puppet either. But Malcolm X would view Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to be like a house Negro, but to me, he's kind of like, he's not, he's not either or completely, but that's pretty much what it is my feedback on it. And it's just sad. It's like who out there in the public eye that's actually famous can even stand up for the Chinese people? Because here you got Chris Rock bashing Asians, in the Academy Awards, which is like one of the most popular shows like in existence. And then who's gonna even stand up for the Asians? Nobody. So with Jeremy Lin, like that's it. Like who else is in mass media that has any respect in the Asian community, in America? And it's just like nobody's there to even say anything. The sad thing is, people had to come to me on YouTube to ask my opinion, because there's just no Asian people out there to stand up for anything, and it's frustrating for Asians, but it's like, this is the world we live in, and I don't see things changing. for the Asians. I think that there's changes for the blacks, but I don't see changes for the Asians as far as like getting like more respect and things like that. You know, Bruce Lee's time, he was dealing with it. This time, like 50 years later, we're still dealing with it, and Asian people will continue to be used as slaves. You know, um, until the end of time. That's the way that I see it. And but what I could say is, even though Asian people get bashed on, look at what they're doing to the Muslims and people that practice Islam. Look at what they're doing to their community. Mass media. They're using methods to attack their people and make them seem like they're so violent and that they're terrorists and all this stuff. I mean, it's horrible. What they're doing, and that's way worse than being laughed at as a Chinese person. I think that the Muslim community um, and the people that practice Islam, the mass media is really hurting their people, and it's sad. But the difference is that they have a strong community, all over the world, and even in America. Like, there's like mosques, like everywhere. There's a lot of different mosques, and there's a lot of Muslims that support each other. But you don't have such a things for Asians. You don't have that such support. You know, um, I mean, but that's all I gotta say. I respect black people to be the same as me. You know, and it's just the people that are black that make fun of the Asians or the Hispanics or whatever minority group. They are disillusioned. They don't understand that we're all the same. Like, we're all minorities. So when you make fun of an Asian person as a black person, you're pretty much making fun of yourself. Or you're an Asian person that's racist towards a black person, you're being racist towards yourself. That's the way that I see it. It's, ideally, we should be all seen as human beings, ideally, but we don't live in an ideal world. So they separate people into categories. So what I'm saying is, if we're going to separate people into categories, then we should use less separation. So meaning, rather than putting opposition between blacks and Asians, you got to realize that we're all minorities, and we're the minorities against the people in power, the whites. And it's not that we're fighting like violently, but we just recognize the opposite. Like man, like female and male. Like the white power is like the male, and then the female is like the minorities. It doesn't mean that if you're in one group you hate the other. It's just making it specific that, hey, I'm in this group, and I'm the one who's being, my people, my group of people are the ones that are being bullied, or the ones that are being taken advantage of, the ones that are being enslaved. And we need to rise up in order to, kind of gain like equal opportunities and things of that nature. You know, when you're a minority, it doesn't mean you hate white people. It just means that you recognize the inequalities, and that you're going to be a part of the struggle to fight against the inequalities. You know, and that's all it is. But if you're in the minority group and then you're fighting amongst each other, then you will not have the strength to fight against the group that's actually oppressing you. And that's the problem with the black on black crime. So a black person making fun of an Asian person is pretty much like a black person killing his own people. Is if you're so busy killing your own people, then you're not going to be able to fight against the opposition that are really killing you. They're the problem as far as like these social problems are concerned. We need to fight the corruption, which is from the yang energy. The yin energy needs to balance out with the yang energy, and the yin is designed to kind of fight the yang, to balance it out. Because right now it's like overpowered with the yang. I mean, you got the minorities, and then you got the overpowering white white power, like overpowering the minorities to kind of take over, to turn everything yang. But the yin has to fight back in order to balance it out, to make it 50-50. Um, Other thing that I want to bring up too is that I just feel that Asians in America, it's almost like the system's almost designed to eventually make them become extinct in my eyes, because I feel that there's less and less Asian American influences in America, to the point where they're just gonna die away. So people like me, who's Chinese American, is gonna be very rare. Just like it's rare to find a Chinese American in the NBA, and there's Jeremy Lin. It's gonna be rare to ever find a Chinese American in the NFL, in boxing, or in Hollywood. It's gonna be extremely rare to even have one Chinese American in the Oscars. I mean, you have like 99.9% white people, and then 0.1% black people, and then there's just no Chinese people at all. So it's gonna be rare, more and more rare, to even find a Chinese person in America. Um, it's like the blacks are getting stronger, the whites continually will be stronger. The Hispanics, they're getting stronger with their numbers. But as far as my um, observations are concerned, the Chinese are getting weaker and weaker and weaker in America, until to the point where they become extinct in America. You know, and I just feel that the people in power in America, they see that there's a lot of people in China, there's a lot of Chinese people in China, billions of them, and they don't want them to have power in America, because if they lose power to Chinese people in America, then the whole, globally, it will be controlled by Chinese people, and they don't want that. So they're like, we gotta eliminate Chinese people in America, so that we can maintain our power over the world at large. So you got like 300 million or whatnot powerful white and black people against the 1 point whatever billion, 1.2 billion Chinese people in China. You're gonna load up a bunch of weapons for America of mass destruction. So then, if there's ever any conflict between America and China, Americans will just send off the nuclear atom bombs to destroy the Chinese people. They already did it to Japan, and then Japan ended up, now you got all these Japanese people that are surrendering and bowing down to Americans or white people, whatnot. And then now they're really on the same team as far as like bullying the Chinese people. So it's just like a whole global war that I see over power, and I'm just caught in between, because I'm American, but yet if you look at me, I look like I'm Chinese. So I was born in America, but then my roots go back to China. So then I'm like in between, and I'm like, I can't really choose either side, because I'm on both sides, and I just have to give my perspective on both sides. But this is just what I see. There's conflict. That's what war is all about. Is about conflict. Capitalism is again conflict amongst people that are privileged against people that are underprivileged. There's always going to be conflict between the rich and the poor, and this is just the type of world that we live in, and just from watching the Oscars alone, you could see the conflicts, the struggles. All white Oscar audience, all white Oscar nominees, all white Oscar awards, and you got the blacks that are protesting the injustice, and then you got a black person that goes ahead and bullies Chinese people. So you got the white people bullying the black, and then you got the black people bullying the Chinese, and then the Chinese, who are they gonna bully? they have no choice but to just take it in and just um, take it in and just basically adapt. You know, and Osho talks about it too. You know, the husband that bullies the wife that bullies the child, and then the child that bullies the toy. So it's just a correct. You know, it just goes down the bully. You know, and the bullying is never gonna stop. It just never will. There's always gonna be bullying. You know, but enlightened people will recognize it and then just kind of stop it. So you could be, rather than being the husband that bullies the wife, you could kind of take that energy and then get rid of it and not put it onto somebody in a negative way. So you're gonna use that energy and maybe like hit a punching bag, hit a wooden dummy, practice art, just to get that energy out. So then you're not affecting people in negative ways. But that's my commentary.